Welcome back to Dukascopy TV for a week full of important economic events. Now, Janet Yellen this week will be speaking at the Joint Economic Committee. All eyes will be closely watching this. We also have the ECB rate decision, but no changes are expected. I'm joined today by Jean-François from MJT. Welcome. So, Jean-François, how are the markets moving ahead of Janet Yellen's speech this week?
Hi, Dorian. Thanks for having me back. Well, we're going to have a look at the graphics. We're back on our FinGraphs mosaic for this Dukascopy show, on which we have Euro US dollar, cable, Australian dollar, gold, dollar Swiss, dollar yen, S&P futures, and the 30-year Treasury bond futures. Okay. And we're going to have to look at equity markets first, and then the S&P futures, and look at what we call an investor's view. Okay. We present all our charts in 3D, meaning over 3 investment horizons. And so here you have a long-term weekly chart, a medium-term daily chart, and a short-term hourly chart. And this is for an investor's view, so it's rather longer term. We also have a trader's view with higher frequencies, but let's focus on the investor's view as of today. Okay. And as we see for the time being, all 3 trends are still in an uptrend. The long-term trend, the weekly, has been in an uptrend now for the better part of 2.5 years. There's still a bit to go in what we call a super impulsive target. So it's a tentative target. We've passed the impulsive targets, and there's still the possibility to reach this impulsive 2 target, but it is an expensive environment, and you can see that with our risk oscillator, which is well in the red and starting to turn, and both our envelopes, so the short-term envelopes touching the wider envelope, meaning that the short-term trend is going a bit too quickly in respect to its long-term trend. Now, effectively on Wednesday, Mrs. Yellen is speaking in front of the Economic Joint Committee. Last time that happened was with Mr. Bernanke back in May, and that's when he led us into the tapering. So it's quite an important speech, and what the committee is going to be wanting to try to evaluate is tapering on track? Okay. How long is it going to last? What could lead the Fed to accelerate tapering, or to go at it on a slower pace? It's also going to be interested in knowing about when and why the Fed could be raising interest rates. What would be the reasons? What would be the economic targets to be met? So it's a very important meeting, and that's on Wednesday, and that's probably going to have a large effect on the markets. Now, what we can see back to the S&P is that we think the daily seems overbought. We have been, the shorter term envelope has been touching the longer term envelopes now quite a few times. It's slowly getting towards a third point of stress. Our targets have been met, impulsive targets done, and we could also see the risk oscillator here well in the red and turning. So although it's still a bull, and we still believe there may be a last go at it over the next few weeks, in terms of an investment which you would be considering over many months, it's getting very expensive, and we would expect that towards the month of May and down into the summer we could expect what could be a consolidation period. There's nothing leading us to believe at the moment, meaning it could accelerate, but at the moment that we could see an outright major reversal, but we should at least see a few months of softness. And here with that trend up that I was talking about, we can see it on the hourly. It doesn't seem quite finished yet. There's a bit more to go, maybe a week or so to go. Now back to the mosaic and going to euro dollar, where the other major news of the week is focused, meaning on the ECB interest rates decision. Last week we had the CPI in Europe. It was weak, but not that weak, which means that it doesn't really give any argumentations to lower interest rates. Probably not now. So at the moment, you wouldn't expect any weakness from an ECB decision, at least from what I read today from the various analysts. Now, long-term trend is still up. You can see here the oscillator has made a top, but not quite in the red yet, but it could mark an intermediate correction on the weekly. On the daily, a similar situation as with the S&P. We've have seen multiple stresses over the last 6 months. The targets have been achieved, and we're well in the red on the risk oscillator. It hasn't turned yet, but it's in good exaggeration. So also here we would expect over the next few months to at least see a period of consolidation. And the hourly is similar. It still has a bit to go, but it's pretty much almost there. So maybe a week or so more. Quickly going to flick to gold because we like to look at gold.
Yes, it's always an important one, especially when we have a speech like Janet Yellen's.
Exactly. And so what we have here is that our long-term trend on the weekly has been negative since late 2012. And we've kept that negative bias, although we've marked the intermediate corrections up, and we labeled the one that we had since last December as only a correction for now. It has improved more, and for the time being, the weekly is still heading down and should still have a few quarters to go. Now, focusing on the daily, you see there are no targets here, and that's usually when the targets are not in accordance with the trend direction. So the trend direction is slightly down following the consolidation here, which is lingering on. Last week I said that if it needs to move up again, it needs to move now. And it seems like it's having difficulties to do so. We believe it hasn't broken down yet, and it probably still has the opportunity to do so, to try to create some momentum towards the month of June. Now, if we really wanted to cast out of our weekly charts, we would need to go back over the previous tops in March. And we probably only have a month and a half to do so to really create that acceleration. So we really need to see something happening here if we want to be mildly positive in light of the weekly, which is still in a downturn trend. And maybe it's happening a bit late, but it's happening. Okay. As if you see, the hourly has accelerated up last week. I guess mostly on the GDP figures and what was happening in Ukraine, and we would need to go above 1317, or exactly 1317.84, so almost 1318, to create that acceleration over the hourly, which could lead, at least on the hourly, into a decent move, which could then create a similar move on the dailies if it was to last a bit. And I think that's all for today. It summarizes the picture.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jean-François.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for tuning in to Dukascopy TV. Now, do stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because we have plenty more coming your way. See you soon.